major component to the game being played on our terms. Last week we talked about not only the new featured runner, but also Teller, Batonio, and Pausic. They're vetting the interior group, and we just thought that was the nuts and bolts of the group. And so we challenged our guys in a big way to stand up versus those three interior veteran guys. Those guys, coupled with the runner, I thought was a major component of us having the type of day we needed to have. We did what we needed to do in that area, and so it produced opportunities in other areas. They end up, dropping back and throwing the ball, I think, 50 plus times. And when you do that, man, and you got a good rush group in some one-dimensional circumstances, you have an opportunity to have the type of day that we had. Certainly, it could have been better. We left some turnovers out there. We had the ball in our hands a couple of times, and we usually secure those, particularly if someone's dropping back and throwing that many times against us under the level of duress that we were able to create. Generally, turnovers come with that, but we weren't able to get it, and so that's something to work on as we transition this week. It's one thing to get the game played on your terms. It's another level of effectiveness when you get the fruit of that labor. And certainly I thought we were missing a turnover or two based on the circumstantial environment that we created in play. On the offensive side of the ball, it was a similar discussion just from the flip side. We needed to stay on schedule. A component of staying on schedule was running the ball effectively to minimize one-dimensional passing moments against the likes of Myles Garrett and so forth. I thought we were largely effective at doing so. I thought we mixed in some changes of launch points with some misdirection and some play action pass to add to the run game, all done in an effort to reduce our exposure to Myles in those circumstances. And I think we were effective at that. There certainly was some one-dimensional circumstances where we had to deal with him and others, and we passed that test. We kept our quarterback upright. I'd like to see us finish some drives earlier in the game. We were selling for field goals there early on, but oftentimes that just speaks to the quality of your performance. And as we sat in here last week and talked about leaning in on this game, we acknowledged what a quality unit the Cleveland Browns defense is, and they certainly are. And so they created some challenging times for us, particularly in weighty moments as the field got short. In the first half, we were selling for field goals, and you just can't do that consistently and expect to fluidly produce victory. And so we got some work ahead of us there. Probably our biggest failure, as I mentioned after the game, was a penalty component. We scout crews just like we scout teams. That crew is consistently active in terms of their number of penalties that they throw. I think they were second in the league this year. They were second in the league in 2024. We placed an emphasis on it leading up to the game. We brought in officials for our practices. But with all of that, we still had a collective failure in that area. That's the most penalties that we've had by far all year. And so I'm looking for a quick rebound in that area as we lean in on this week's work, man. You can't step into, road AFC North stadiums, man, and be highly penalized and think that you're going to fluidly engineer victory. It's just not realistic. And so we got to get better. We got to get better in a hurry from that perspective. But largely, I like the energy in which the collective played. I thought we generally played complementary football in all three phases, supporting one another. There were examples of people stepping up, man, and getting opportunity. We had some guys coming back from injury and so forth. Can't say enough. Young Key is a punt returner, getting his first NFL action. To Calvin, for example, I thought he made good decisions. I thought he was mechanically solid, fundamentally solid. But it's a lot of examples of that, and that's just the nature of this journey. I don't think that there's been a game this year where we hadn't elevated someone from our practice squad in some form or fashion in an effort to participate. I just think it's a function of the game and player availability, and that's why we got to train all people. We got to harden the collective. We got to develop skill and know-how in all areas. Just knowing that at some point in time, everyone's going to get an opportunity to show their readiness and their capabilities. And so particularly on a short week, man, we're going to, be urgent in that regard. A couple injury notes. Calvin missed the last game. We'll see what this week looks like. It's a short week. but we do have a good work day tomorrow. We'll see what that holds. There were no ill effects of Jalen Ramsey's return to action, Joey Porter Jr.'s return to action. There were some bumps and bruises associated with play in game, but nothing that would raise our antennas regarding player availability on Thursday night as I sit here right now. Obviously, Miles Killebrew's injury is significant, and he could be described as out. Now I'll transition and talk about the Bengals. First, their defense. They have a new defensive coordinator in Al Golden. That certainly has our attention. There's intimacy in these divisional relationships. Most cases, man, you know them, they know you, and it creates an awesome chess match that's competitive and challenging and fun. They probably have a better handle on what we're capable of in this component of the matchup. Not highly familiar with Coach Golden's schematics, just getting the first look at it. They're doing some things differently than they have done in the past, and that's reasonable to expect when you have a new coordinator. And so because it is a short week, that really has our attention. We're really working with some urgency there. We got to be good. We can't be surprised by any schematics, obviously. And so, man, we'll be working around the clock to level the playing field in terms of familiarity in that area. On to the people. Trey is a game wrecker up front. It starts there for us. I think the last time we were in stadium with him, he got 2.5 or 3 sacks or so. He was a critical component of the game. He's one of the best in the business, man. He needs no endorsement from me. He's got 35 sacks or so in the last 2 years. He had 17.5 in 23, 17.5 in 24. He's been ridiculously consistent. They move him around. He plays primarily on their right edge, but he will get some left edge work. And so both tackles have to be ready to block him. If we're interested in assistance in one-dimensional circumstance, we better be prepared for his movement, and it better be pliable in terms of body positioning and chips and so forth. He's just a real challenge. He got some help up front in the form of Slayton, an acquisition from Green Bay. He's an interior big man that really controls the run game climate. If we want to have a good day running the football, it kind of starts there. These intimate divisional relationships, man, can often be described in that way. We got young players like Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. They got new players like Slayton, young players like 90 from Michigan. And so, you're going to establish a rapport, if you will. And to do so in a short week is a big-time challenge, but we better do it. We better stay on schedule. We better minimize our one-dimensional passing circumstances if we want to reduce our exposure to Trey. Man, they got a secondary that's been together now for a while. They went through a transition there with the loss of some significant players a couple of years ago. But guys like DJ Turner and Dax Hill and Geno Stone, man, have been together for multiple years now. You feel that cohesion, the things that they're able to do in the secondary to move people around, to get in complex schematics and check systems of coverage. You see it. They do an awesome job on possession down play, getting sub-package people in there and really matching up with whatever you put on the field. And so we got a full weeks ahead of us from a prep standpoint, getting familiar with Coach Golden and some of the new pieces and even some of the old pieces in terms of how they're deploying them this week. On the offensive side, certainly the story is Joe Flacco. And, it's reasonable to expect him to be significantly better in week 2. He's been in the stadium with them. They've been in the stadium with him. They understand his demeanor, how he deals with circumstances. I would imagine they worked hard a week ago on developing timing and cohesion. I'd imagine it's taken a significant step after having done so under some live football circumstances. I saw him make some anticipatory throws even last week, and so I thought he was significantly better as the game wore on. And so certainly we got a full week's work ahead of us in terms of minimizing a veteran, savvy, talented thrower like him, coupled with the eligibles that they have. And so that certainly has our attention. How they're choosing to deploy their backs in the run game also has our attention. Brown obviously is the featured runner. He's very good on the perimeter and in the screen game. They run a lot of tosses and so forth. They use a nice arsenal of tight ends, Samples, Gasecki, Fant. They do a nice job of mixing up the schematics when they go to those guys in a variety of ways, so you don't get a bead on their usage. Zach's called it for a long time, familiar with our defensive schematics, and so we're in for an all day's work with that collective as well. I would imagine there'll be a certain level of excitement, man. Those guys having Joe Flacco in a home venue on a Thursday night and some primetime ball. We covet that as well. We love going into hostile environments. We love divisional play. We certainly love and respect and appreciate being a component of primetime football and being able to put our talents on display for the football world. And so to appreciate that and respect that is one thing. To be prepared for it and to bring it to fruition is another. And so I'll be quiet, man, and answer your question so I can get to work.
Mike, when you see a veteran like Jalen Ramsey prepare himself when it looks like maybe he won't play, do what he has to do to get ready, go out on the field and play, what impact does that have on the rest of the guy?
You know, it's certainly a shining example of what professional football is about. But I doubt that any of us are surprised by it. Just having been around him since he's gotten here, that's very consistent behavior with what he's displayed throughout. And personally, for a guy like me who has scouted him since he was at Florida State, I certainly know that's a component of his football character. So I'm certainly not surprised by it, but it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate it. Not only do we appreciate his willingness to play, we appreciate his playmaking. And you need both in order for it to be real. And he certainly provided both.
Mike, what were your thoughts on the field conditions yesterday, and are you concerned going forward?
I thought it was poor yesterday. I'm not concerned going forward. It's my understanding that turf is going to be swapped out, but I certainly acknowledge it was a concern yesterday.
Did you have any idea, it had been a month since you guys played there, did you have any idea that it was going to be bad?
No, I don't work over there. I work over here.
And when you guys decided to pursue Aaron and get the contract done, 6 weeks in now, the way the passing game looks, is it looking the way you had a vision of? And if not, where might it be different, better, worse, however you see it?
You know, I certainly had an overall vision of what it could look like, but it wasn't so detailed that I can compare it to our present state. I think sometimes when you're inflexible from a planning perspective in that way, you're not adaptable enough to be what you need to be. A lot of ideas certainly that we had about what it would look like have been confirmed, but you really don't know what you got until you get it. Being around him day to day and that component of it, his experience, what's natural and fluid for him, the relationships that he's able to develop with others, all of that's a component of the equation that could alter the vision component. And so I'm never too married to a vision. It's certainly moving in the general direction that I anticipated it doing, but it's also reasonable to expect that to continue as we push forward.
And as a follow-up, when you use the word flexibility there, until Calvin does come back, how would you like to see the ball distributed when it's not going to DK?
To open people.
Like on the field conditions, was the playing surface a factor in Miles Kilgour's injury?
I have no idea.
Can you just talk about what he means to your special team and how do you go about replacing him?
He's our captain, but you guys know the motto that we live by. We can certainly hurt for him as a man and as a teammate and a brother and the individual. But from a football perspective, one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. And we certainly have some capable people. And there's an expectation that others step up and fill in the gaps.
You coach in the AFC North longer than anybody. What did you make of the rarity of seeing an interdivisional trade of experienced quarterback inside the division?
You know, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
When the Bengals acquired him, knowing what you know about Zach and how he likes to run his offense, like from Cincinnati's perspective, did it make sense for them?
It certainly made sense from Cincinnati's perspective.
Does Flacco play the way Zach likes to run his offense, basically?
He can throw the football. And he's always been able to throw the football. Arm strength, arm accuracy, anticipatory passer, fluid movement through progressions. That's always been his game.
I guess like some of the snap counts, I think some key players were dialed back a little bit yesterday. Did the short week influence any of that decision making at all?
There's a lot of variables in the play time, and I have no intentions of getting into the details of it because it may alter the competitive component moving forward.
What is it about Joe Flacco that he's had the longevity that he's had and is still playing at this high level?
You know, I don't know. I'm not around him day to day. I think oftentimes those questions are better answered by those that are around him day to day. But generally in this business, when somebody's able to compete and compete at a high level for a long time, it's because of some real tangible day-to-day habits and relationships with the game that make all of that possible.
Mike, how have you seen the offensive line kind of develop through these first 5 games, specifically Robert Jones? How has he kind of improved?
You know, I think the collective has gotten consistently better, but I just think that's a reasonable expectation. They're young as individuals, they're young as a collective, and with experience comes execution and precision. And that's been the overall trajectory of it. I've probably answered that question every week over the last 3 weeks, and my answer is still the same. It's moving in the direction in which we would like it. Certainly, whether it's an individual within the group or whether it's the group as a whole.
Following up on that, I talked to Troy Felton and Zach Frazier after the game. Things that they said today, Victor, they're finishing and they're doing things like that. You've cultivated past successful offensive lines. What is the coaching staff that you guys have to do to build that path to success for a young group as they're fading their way?
I think the more you have a better understanding of what you're doing as an individual and a trust that you're a component of a collective, I think it allows you to play harder and to play with emotion and for your talents to show more consistently, more fluidly. And I just think that's just that's the verbal explanation of what you're looking at.
What did you see out of Caleb Johnson, specifically maybe bouncing back on a confidence level?
What do you mean?
I mean, after the muffed kick there before.
That has nothing to do with his ball carrying. He's never lacked confidence as a ball carrier. He's been continually growing and developing in that area. When given an opportunity to get some reps, he's been good, and we expect that to continue. He hasn't been given an opportunity to bounce back from the kick return, and so it's a separate discussion for me.
How rare is it, or how hard is it to Nick Herbig comes in and plays well, and like Carol talked about finding a role for him, then once Alice came back, you kind of have to change your schematics.
That's a good problem. I mean, having too many good players and trying to figure out how to distribute reps among capable guys is a good problem. I welcome that problem.
Mike, what kind of advantage do you think your tight end room is, and do you think there's still a lot more there?
I think it's certainly an advantage for us. We've got a diversity of skill set and talent in that room. We got a big one that's capable of matching up against 4-3 ends, particularly in the run game. We have one that's a oversized athlete with excellent run after in Jonnu. We got a zone killer and Freiermuth. We got a versatile guy in Connor. And so the diversity of talent is a component that makes that room as competitive as it is and so helpful to us as a collective.
On that note, a lot of the guys were talking about how you teed up Darnell for that week against the Browns. How fun was it to watch him follow through and embrace that and play like that?
I'll keep our in-house business in-house.
Was that intentional, assembling guys with different skill sets like that? You didn't get them all at once.
Very much so. Very much so.
You talked last week about, the reason you drafted Darnell was you had the thought process in mind of 4-3 teams within the division. Similarly, when you put together the secondary, were you thinking in some ways about the challenge of the division, the Bengals, and all their
Absolutely. You better have some corners taller than me if you're dealing with the likes of T. Higgins and people like that. And so certainly, and that's something that we talk about as a collective, the intimacy of divisional relationships. It's just a component of the game. You better stack up good against those that you compete against in a lot of ways. And so I'm sure people acquire secondary people to match up with that collective. Baltimore took a first-round corner and Nate Wiggins the other year, I'm sure, with that group in mind. The Bengals have taken right tackles in recent years, I'm sure, to minimize TJ's impact in that relationship. That's divisional play. That's what makes it so challenging and so exciting.
You guys paid Pat a significant chunk of money a couple summers ago. The production in relation to the numbers hasn't been there, but I talked to him.
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
Production, like he's not getting.
Who?
Fryer. I'm sorry, Fryer. He's not getting, a lot of targets right now just because of the way the scheme is, the games are unfolding. He's also not out there complaining about it. He said told me yesterday, hey, look, my time is going to come. Do you find that mindset, which hasn't necessarily been the way it's been here for a while, maybe pervasive throughout the offensive unit as a whole, and how much of this may be Aaron's influence in it?
I think that is very reflective of the environment here. I disagree with you. He's a good teammate. We're winning games. We're gaining cohesion. He's certainly capable. He knows his time is going to come to ante up and kick in. He better be ready. I'm sure he will be. That's just how we go about our business.
Mike, what have you learned about Jono off the field and the way that he's kind of ingrained himself in the tight ends group, took a bunch of them to the prison to visit his brother last week? Just what have you learned about the man that he is?
He's a good guy, man. But again, we didn't get into this relationship blind. Arthur Smith had worked with him in different locations. And so it was nothing mystical about who he is. It doesn't mean that we don't appreciate it. He's a good teammate. He's got a great relationship with football. He's a good man.
What are some of the most specific challenges of playing on a short week like this and just using that experience that you've had over?
I don't worry about it. To be quite honest with you, it's a challenge for us, but it's also a challenge for those that we compete against. And so I like to spend my time and I like to set a mindset within our group that we do a better job navigating it than those we compete against. And that's often the case, whether it's short weeks, whether it's long weeks, whether it's international games. It's my job and our job to make the irregular regular and to deal with it relatively well. And that term relative oftentimes means better than those that you're competing against.
At the same time, you guys have struggled on Thursday nights recently, particularly on the road. Is there anything you can put your finger on as a through line or anything you do?
I'm only concerned about 2025. I got my ass kicked in a lot of ways over the last 19 years.
Mike, Joey Porter Jr. came back from several weeks being off an injury. It seemed like you had a pretty strong game of detailed work. What did you appreciate as far as his effort on Sunday?
I thought it was a good game, first game back. I look forward to him to continue to get better. Certainly got a big test coming on Thursday night.
2 straight games under 70 yards rushing after 3 straight over 100. What do you feel like is working better in run defense?
We're just gaining cohesion. We're getting better. And a component of that is, getting some of our significant pieces back, guys like Deshaun Elliott, who's been back for those 2 games that you mentioned, and who is very active in that component of play.
How much has Harmon impacted the run defense?
We made him an opening day starter as a rookie for a reason. He's a talented guy, but he's missed some time as well. And now that we have him back and he's rounding out in the form, I'd imagine that you're going to feel more of his impact as well.
A lot of players credited Arthur Smith with calling plays that helped them play fast on Sunday. What has gone into the game plan to get them to use your guys in a way that they can play that fast?
That's just regular business, man. It is our job to do things in their wheelhouse, to have enough ball so that we're not predictable, but not have too much so we don't paralyze the group individually or collectively. I'm certainly not going to make more out of that than what it is.
Mike, has Darnell shown over the past 2 weeks that he deserved more time than just the 4-man fronts, or is that just his sweet spot, you think?
We're going to divide the labor up week in and week out to suit the immediate needs of the competition. And so the last couple of weeks has been significant for obvious reasons that we've discussed. He's certainly probably going to be in a similar position this week in terms of role because, again, it's another 4-3 team. We'll worry about some of that other stuff when we get to it.
Mike, as the run game is heated up for you guys, you've opened up the downfield passing game a little bit. How have you seen defenses react to the running game heating up, and how has that opened up the passing game?
I just think that's a natural football thing. When you're effectively running the football, people have to deploy more people in the box. The people they deploy play with a certain edge, and it creates more space. It challenges their discipline and their eyes, but that's not exclusive to us. That's just football. in not only NFL football, but every level of football.
What have you like from Patrick Queen in the past, get the whole season so far?
You know, he looks like a guy in his second year. I challenge second year guys, whether it's second year in the National Football League or second year with the Steelers. Last year was his first year as a defensive quarterback. And so it's reasonable to expect him to be better, and he certainly has been. And I'm excited about where that's going to go. I know particularly in the last couple of weeks, man, he has been a big impact in our unit.
Anyone else?
Will you install Captain Miles is out?
I hadn't thought about it. I'm sure we'll think about it a little later in the week after we get some of this heavy lifting out of the way.
The size of his role make it almost, it has to be more than one person to replace it.
What's that?
Miles on special, the number of snaps he takes on special teams.
We're going to divide the labor up based on the skill set in a certain space. And so, you know, one guy might be similar to him in punt team. Another guy might be similar to him in terms of what he does on the kickoff team. We'll deal with those individually per space.
It's a quarterback coming in within 8 days of showing up has to start 2 games for a new team. If you speak to how hard that is, or maybe it's, you know, veteran guy.
Doesn't appear to be hard for Joe Flacco.
All right, thanks, Doug.
Great. What you guys been doing?